Okay, so you have made a garment, you fitted it to the model, and you have simulated it and cached everything out. And now what you would need to do is take it into Maya and Substance Painter for texturing and then Maya for rendering. And we want to just bring all this into Maya and set it up to render correctly. So that's where we're going to start from here. So we have everything cached out. Now we want to export all of this, including the avatar. Now, the avatar is one of the built-in avatars that comes with Marvelous Designer, but we are going to use that in Maya. So to export this, we need to just go File, Export, and we're going to do it as an FBX. Okay, that's going to allow us to not only export the clothing, but also the avatar as well. So export it, pick a folder, just pick one here, and we get this window right here. Now, the way I do it is I do it as a single object. Otherwise, you're going to get each panel of the clothing be a separate object, and I don't see any real value to that. And also, when it comes to if the cache does not apply to the clothing in the FBX, you're going to have to do it manually. And if you got lots of pieces, it may be a problem. So then I also like to weld the vertices between the panels. And I want to use the thin cloth, because the thick cloth tends to give you way too much geometry and doesn't really look very good. I'm going to leave unified UV coordinates on, and I'm going to turn off all of these because there's no real, for the clothes, I'm not exporting any textures. So I don't need all these maps to get exported. The avatar will come with its textures even when this is off, so this doesn't apply to the avatar. We want to export joint animation and cache animation. I'm going to set this to ASCII, and I'm going to make sure that my scale is set in centimeters, just because Maya does use centimeters. One thing to also, so once you have that, you can hit OK. I've already done it, so I'm not going to do it here. But one thing to also notice is the UVs. If I go here and go to UV editor, the UVs, there's no telling what they look like. You can see mine are not very good here. What I will do is just right click on here and go, just right click anywhere. It doesn't have to be on the panels, but anywhere. Reset UV to 2D arrangement. So what it does is it just puts the UVs the same way that the things look in the 2D pattern window. Okay. Now you can set your UVs. You can set them up here like you would, but I prefer to do them in Maya, but I'll spread them out here just to make it easy to deal with once I get to Maya. Okay. So you export that as an FBX, and then we can bring it into Maya. All right, so now back in Maya, we go File, Import, and what I want here is the FBX. So walk.fbx, I do import, and we just give it a second here. Might take a minute. Okay, so it's doing a whole bunch of things down here. Now we're going to get, at least in this case, some kind of error. And if I click on this error, it's talking about the bind pose for the skin. And that's okay, because there is no bind pose for the rig. This is a minor, it's just a warning. It's not an error, so it's not going to, hurt anything. So just hit close. And now the file looks like nothing happened, but you can see that she's actually really big because she's at real life size. So just hit F, and it's going to zoom out to her. You can see where the grid is and where she is. So now we can zoom into her. And I know that my animation was 500 frames. So I'm just going to double click here and do, I think it was 501. So I'll do 501 frames. And now you can see that it brought it in. Okay. Now there is the chance that the clothing is not attached to its cache for one reason or another. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So you can see mine is, but I'm just going to delete history on it just to break that connection to the cache. And you can see now it's not moving. So what we have to do, and this is the reason that I prefer to send it out as a single piece instead of separate pieces for every panel, is because now I can just apply the cache to the one object, right? So I can go to cache, I can go to geometry cache, import cache. Then I just need to navigate to, let me find that folder real quick here. Okay, so there it is. It's an XML, so walk.xml. And once I attach that, you can see now the cloth will move. So if yours comes in and it's not attached to the cache, that's an easy fix. Just go to cache, geometry cache, import cache, then import that XML file, and it will attach this to it. Now, obviously, there's this transition period right here. That 30 frames that you put on at the beginning for the transition. So I'm just going to double click this and start my timeline at 30 so that it just starts right there. Okay, so there we go. Now we have our cloth in here. Now if I hit 6 and give it a second here. Oh, it's got to download my textures. I will be right back. So there we go. Now it's done putting the textures on. Notice that the textures, there's no textures on the clothes because really we didn't make any in Substance Painter. But the other thing to note is that the textures on her, so I'm just going to select my clothes here and just hit H for right now. The textures on her, she has her own shaders. And if we look at this here, we'll see that there's a whole bunch of different things that came in with her. If we hover over this, I'm going to make these a little bit bigger. If we hover over this one right here, you'll see that it says arm 2. There's the body. And there's the face. There's the leg. So the textures on her are actually split into multiple shaders that are applied to specific parts of the body. So if I go to the body one right here, you see body 3, right click on and go to graph network. This is the shader. If I click on the shader, you'll see it's a Phong shader. Okay. Now we plan to render this in Arnold. So we don't want it to be a Phong. We want it to be an AI standard surface. So what I'm going to have to do here is just tab and start typing in AI standard surface. There we go. And I'm just going to call this body shader. And we just need to transfer the maps from this shader to the new one. So what I'm going to do is just select these, bring them down here. This one here, as you can see, is a normal map. So if I click on there, I just need to make sure I'm going to turn on ignore color space file rules and go to sRGB utility and raw. Normal map should always be raw. Okay, once I've done that, I can go from out normal on the bump 2D node to normal camera. Okay, then this one here, this is the color map. So what I'm going to do here is just go from out color to base color. But I'm also going to go from out color to subsurface color. Okay. Now with that done, I'm going to click on the shader, set my roughness somewhere like 0.5, just because I don't want her to be super shiny. I'm going to go to subsurface. I'm going to turn the weight to about 0.5 as well. Okay. We want some of that subsurface scattering effect. And I'm going to leave the scale at 1, and the radius, I'm going to make it sort of an orangey red color. So somewhere in here. Right, something along these lines, right? The subsurface, that's the subsurface radius is the color that you see, like in somebody's ears if they got a strong light source behind them. That is the color that you would see. So we're just setting that up somewhere in the orangey red region, something like that. And then that should be good. Okay, so now what we need to do, and I'm going to make this smaller here just so we can see her. Okay, so if we go to the original shader, right click on it and go to select objects with material, you'll notice that it selects the faces of her main sort of body. Okay, now that those are selected, what I can do is then right click on body shader and go to assign material to viewport selection. So it's just going to assign this new shader to those selected faces. And you can see what it looks like. It looks a little bit darker. Okay, and that's totally normal. Now when I've done that, I can get rid of the old one. So these two nodes can go away. Just delete them. Okay, so now this is the body shader. Okay, let's do the same thing again for the arm. So we go to arm 2 here, go to graph network, tab, AI standard surface. We'll call this one, let's maximize this. We'll call this one arm shader. There we go, arm shader. Okay, then we'll take these two, bring them down here. Again, normal map, we just need to make sure that it is set to raw. Okay, then we're going to plug out normal into normal camera. Okay, we're going to take the out color, the color map. We're going to take that, the subsurface color, and also the base color. Okay, we're going to go in here, set your roughness 0.5, set your subsurface weight to 0.5, and then again the radius. It's saved that color from last time, so we'll just pick that same color. Okay, we want these to be consistent across these so that the you know, things don't change from the body to the legs to the arms, etc. So there we go. And now again, if I right click, and you gotta sort of, if you right click too low down this node, you'll see nothing happens. But if I'm near the top of it and right click, then it'll work. So select objects with material. You see that the arms are selected. And then right click on this shader, assign material to viewport selection. Then we can delete this shader. So there we go. Next one is, let's do the legs. So graph the legs right there. AI standard surface. Let's move these down here. Call this leg shader. Okay, so we're just going to do the same thing again. Oops. Select these, bring them down here. I'm going to do with the color map, goes to base color and the subsurface color. Then the normal map, we just need to set that to raw. And then out normal camera. Select this, roughness 0.5, subsurface weight 0.5. And then same thing, right click, select objects with material. Right click on this one, assign material to selection. There we go. Okay, then we can get rid of that shader. Okay, the next one is the face. Right, so if I just select her an isolator, so it hides the hair, you can see the head, and you can see in the head what's happening here is because the normal map on the head or the face is not set to raw. So this is what happens when you don't set that. So if I go to face right here in graph network and just select the normal map here and set that to raw, right, that's immediately going to fix things, but still we need to change the shader itself. So we're going to tab AI standard surface, and this one is the face shader. Grab this, out color to base color, out color to subsurface color, out normal to normal camera. Select the shader, subsurface weight to 0.5, roughness to 0.5. Right click, select objects with material. Right click on this one, assign material to viewport selection. There we go. So that's all the body done. Okay, we got to do the hair, so we can delete this face shader here. Next one here is the, let's do the afro here. In my case, she's got an afro. It might be different in yours. This one is easy. So we just tab an AI standard surface. And we'll call this one hair shader. And this is just going to go into the base color. That's really all we need it for. Then we can decide if we don't need any subsurface. I'm going to leave that at 0. How, you know, shiny do we want her hair to be? And we might have to do some render tests. So I'm going to leave it there for right now, but we may have to turn it down if it's too shiny. Okay, right click on this shader, select objects with material. Or if that doesn't do anything, just click on the hair and then right click and assign material to viewport selection. And it'll look like that. And there we go. Now, it is possible that this PNG came with a, no, actually, I don't think it came with an alpha channel. So I think we're fine with that. Really, it's just going to be black hair. So we can now get rid of this. Delete that. And what else do we have here? There's also an afro. Yeah, let me graph this one here. I'm not sure what this one is. Okay, maybe this is. Okay, I think this might be the correct one, actually, now that I think about it. So I'm gonna look around for my hair shader. So I'm just gonna middle mouse drag this one in here. Okay, so I'm gonna just take this, move these down, because yeah, I think this one has that hair texture and everything. So we're gonna do that. So the mask, basically what that is, just basically the alpha channel. Let's see if I can view it here. Maybe not. Okay, so it's not letting me view it, but all I'm going to do is just plug this into opacity right there. Then the afro hair, this is going to go to my base color, and then this is a normal map. So again, we need to come in here, set this to raw, then go out color, normal camera. Okay, So now the hair, because it's already assigned, I don't need to assign it. Now the hair is actually got the proper texture to give us the look that we want. Hopefully that'll work. We'll see. And then just delete the original one. There we go. Okay, so that's fine for that. Now the next one we got to do is the eyeballs. Now, for whatever reason, they gave her two identical shaders, one for each eyeball. We're just going to use one of them. So I'm going to graph network on this. You can see there's the eye texture right there. And what I'm going to do is just tab AI standard surface. And we'll call this one eye shader. And let me spell that right. Okay, so same deal as before. Bring this down here. Normal map. Ignore color space file rules. Utility raw. Out normal to normal camera. And for the eye, I'm going to go to base color. And we're going to go to subsurface color. And we're going to select the shader. Now the eyeballs are pretty shiny, so I'm going to leave it at 0.2 roughness. And the eyeballs on the subsurface, let's try like a 0.3 in the weight. And for the radius, I'm going to take this color, but then I'm going to desaturate it a little bit. I don't want it to be too red. So something like that. And then all we got to do is, and this time I'm going to open up my character, select these two eyeballs, right click on this, and assign material viewport selection. So now her eyeballs should be looking good. Okay, then we can delete this shader and the other one, which is the other eye, just because they're the same thing. Now, she also has a teeth shader. I'm not going to waste my time with it because she does not open her mouth at any point. We're not going to see those teeth. And then there's a whole bunch of other things here that are not used, but we'll get rid of those later. Next thing we got to worry about here is her shoes. Okay, now, let me see here. The shoes themselves, depending on the kind of shoe you want. If you want just a high heel without this section here, we're just going to put a transparent shader on there. If you want some kind of wedge heel, then you would just texture this the same as the rest of the shoe, I guess. So what we're going to do, we're just going to make a black shoe shader. We're not going to spend too much time. I don't think they have anything specific here. They have the sort of transparent shader, but we're just going to make a new one here. So what I'm going to do is this. Tab and do make a new AI standard surface. And we're going to call this one shoe shader. And, you know, I want black shoes or real close to black. So I'm just going to drop the base color down pretty low. Oh, wait, that's specular. Sorry, I got to go all the way up here to base. And go to drop it down pretty low here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both shoes and assign this material. Okay, so this is what we have. Actually, let's go even lower. Let's make it real close to black, something like that. Okay, but if you want this to just be a heel without this on the inside here, what we're going to do is we're going to make AI standard surface. So AI standard, there we go. And we're just going to call this one invisible. Did I spell that right? Invisible. Okay, and invisible, all that's going to be, we don't even have to drop the weights of anything. We scroll down to geometry and set its opacity to 0. That just makes it a completely invisible shader. And we're going to right click, go to face mode, just double click this section here. It's just going to select that part and then right click, assign material to viewport selection. All right, so then we can do the same on this side. Double click and assign that shader. Now we may not be able to see anything in the viewport, and that's because these weights are still up here, I think. So no, you know, we might have to render. Because again, the viewport is not really a good gauge of what's going on. Now back to the shoe shader itself, probably ought to turn up this roughness. We don't super shiny reflective shoes, maybe 0.3 something. Okay, and let's go ahead and just test that out. Let's put an Arnold Sky Dome light, and I'm just gonna render without an HDR map just to see. There we go. So that is working. As you can see, those are now invisible. Okay, so opacity, we go back in the invisible shader. If you set the opacity on the geometry opacity to black, it means that shader is just completely transparent. This is not the same as transmission. So transmission is it's actually doing physics of light rays traveling through a surface and getting refracted and all this. That's not what we want. We just want the parts that are opaque to be completely ignored and just the light just goes through them as if they're not there. So that's what we want here with opacity. So that's going to give us basically just heels, just like that. Okay, let's zoom out here and just look at the rest of the body. You can see some of that subsurface effect happening there in the arms. Sorry, in the fingers. Okay. Not going to spend too much time. This shader is probably good as it is. It is now an Arnold shader, so it's just going to render much nicer. You can see her face is a lot softer with that. So we're going to call that good. Okay, so if I now select my outfit here and hit H, now we can focus on doing up this outfit and getting that textured, and then doing our final renders. Okay, so I'm going to save my file here. So now we're ready to do the UVs for the outfit. So I'm going to go into UV editor. And of course, the UVs came in just the way they were set up in Marvelous Designer. So just to make things a little bit more efficient, I'm going to take this sleeve here and I'm going to go to transform and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees this way. Take this one, rotate it 90 degrees the other way. Right. Now we can take advantage of multiple UDIM tiles here. We just need to make sure that the texel density matches across all the panels for the jacket. So I'm just going to select one of these and down here in transform, go to texel density and get. Okay, now I might do a 4K, so 4096. So I'm basing this on a 4096 map. So if I get, it's about 40. Then I'm just going to select all the parts of the jacket and just make sure everything is set. It should be, but never hurts to be sure. Now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the front panels, the back panels, and I'm going to put each of them on their own UV tile. So what I'm looking at here, so let's move these closer so they're not so spread out here. And right now the sleeves are sort of the biggest piece. So I want to scale these up big enough that the sleeve just fits inside of a UV tile. So if I'm looking at this tile right here, now I need to scale them all up because I want them to keep in the same texel density. So I'm gonna do that. So that sleeve you can see fits in there. And then I'm gonna take all this other stuff here, just move it out the way. See if I can get two sleeves inside the same tile by rotating this one 180 degrees. And not quite. So what I'm going to do is, just for the sake of efficiency, I'm actually going to now scale down until I can get both of them in the same UDIM tile, like that. Okay, so that is efficient there. Then now I can basically take this, put it there. Maybe I'll take this waistband and put it there, and then this front panel, I'm going to put these closer. These could probably go in their own UV tile. And I'll take my collar here and let's rotate that 90, something like that. So we got 3 UDIM tiles here, right? Now I can actually spread these out a little bit. Okay, something like that. Now obviously they need to go down here, but for right now I'm just going to put them in there. Then same deal here. This is my skirt, and this is my biggest UV shell here. So again, I'm gonna just select the main skirt here and get the texel density, and that is also about 40 or so. So I'm just gonna set on all these just to get them all the same exact texel density. Then I'm gonna select all the skirt here, and I'm gonna scale this so that the biggest piece, which is that circle, can fit in a UDIM tile, which it can there. Now, I don't know if I can, yeah, I can put this in here. There we go. Now, unfortunately, this now cannot really fit very well here. So I'm going to have to just select everything and just scale it down a hair, right? So that now this can come in here. And then move them down and see if I can squeeze a little bit more out of it. Yeah, so right about there. Okay, I don't care that the jacket and the skirt are the same textile density. They don't really need to be. So I'm going to put this here just to line them up. Okay, now this is in the negative square. So I'm going to select all these. And actually, before I do that, we have to take care of these pieces right here. So this is all the zipper and all these other things. Right, and they're overlapping each other, which we don't want. So just to make my life easy, I'm going to take these. I'm going to open up Arrange and Layout. And I'm just going to, well, let's do it this way. Let's go to Tools. Or is it Modify? Modify, go in the Options. And Texture Map Size, I have at 4096. With a shell padding and tile padding on 25. And just hit Layout. And if you get this, just tell it to fix. Hopefully it'll be able to do that. And we just give it a second here. Close this, and yeah, that's not the greatest, but really all it is just the zipper pieces. And if I wanted the zipper pieces to be a little bit more pronounced, I can just select most of this stuff, especially the zipper pulls here, which are just going to be, honestly, they're going to be just a metal. So I'm going to just scale those up, and let's go ahead and just lay them out again. And let's see what we get. Okay, so those are now kind of laying out a lot better. Let's scale them now. Okay, these, I honestly don't spend too much time on these. So there we go. Oops. So these I'm gonna push them up. So right here on the transform, move, set this to 1 and just move them up 1 square. Then we're gonna take these up here, move them across. And you know what? I think something funny happened when I told it to fix, because it is now, if we look at this, these are now unstitched. Let me just go back here and look. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to undo this. Let's undo. I'm going to do a bunch of undos here till we get back to before we laid out those zipper pieces. Keep going until this goes away here. There we go. Okay, so that was an internal line in substance that is causing that. And if you say fix, it'll mess that up, as we saw there. So I just need to be real careful about some of these things here. Let's start by just taking these pieces here and lay out. And let's just try ignore and see if that'll do anything. Oh, it just basically didn't do anything. Okay. So I guess we're going to do this the hard way. Gonna take these, just split them up and scale them up. Okay, this will be just like a silver or something, some kind of metallic thing. So I don't need to be super accurate with these. I just don't want them to overlap. So this is here. Can I lay these two out without any trouble? Nope. Let's try ignore. That didn't do anything. So I'm just gonna scale them up. Okay, so it just means we got to do some of these manually. Scale them up to make them fit in there as big as they can. Put them closer to each other and just make sure they sit in there somewhere. And then we got other parts of the zipper like this, right? So I'm just going to go in here. Now there's lots of little pieces like that. I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time with those. I just need these to be separated a little bit so we have things that aren't overlapping. Let's put this one here. There. Take this piece, put it next to that one. And then everything else here, maybe this. Everything else here should be good. So we're going to take this and scale that up. Okay, and then we can just keep scaling stuff up to make it fit. Separate this a little bit here. All right, I'm going to call that good. Okay, so we'll take this and just move it up one square. Then take these, move across and down. So we want it to start in the first square going that way. And honestly, that's good enough. We're good to go here. So with the UVs done, now all I'm going to do is just right click and put just a standard Lambert on there. Just so that everything has, the whole thing has one shader. And we can now export. So selected, export selection. I'm just going to call it outfit.obj. And yes. Then we're going to go into Substance Painter and go File, New. First template there is the one I'm using. And I'm going to go in here and select outfit.obj. 2048, normal map format, OpenGL for Arnold. Turn on use UV tile workflow. And then hit OK. Okay, so this comes in. These are my UV tiles in the texture set. And there we go. Okay, so we know that if I hit F1 here, we know that the jacket takes up 1001, 1002, 1003. So I'm actually going to delete this default layer, make a new folder, click over here, and I want to remove 1004 and 1011 from that so that it only includes the jacket, and I can name this folder jacket. Okay, then I'm going to make another folder, and I'll name this one skirt. And I'm going to click here, and this one is only going to have the skirt. So I'm going to select that, then come over here and invert. Now it'll deselect all the others and leave the skirt. Then what else do we have here? Let's do the zipper. So we'll make a folder for the zipper. And we are going to click on this one, and I think we can alt click. There we go. If you alt click, it'll just, you know, deselect everything but that one. That's the other way to invert. Okay, so now we have 3 folders for each part, and you know, then we can decide exactly how we want to texture this. I'm going to keep this simple here. Let's is there anything worth using in here? There's like a denim. Let's try that. I'm going to put the denim in the jacket group. And you can see obviously it's a little big, so we can increase our tiling down here under the properties. We can, you know, increase it until it looks about right. Maybe somewhere around 5 or 6, you know, depending how big you want that thread pattern to be. Okay, now one thing I did forget to do is on the edit, mode, bake mesh maps. And I'm going to bake everything. I don't need an ID map, so I'm going to turn that off. If I click here on common settings, let's say I want my textures to be 4K, so I'm going to make sure I set it there. And that's pretty much everything I need. I'm going to hit bake selected textures. And we'll just wait for that to get done. Okay, then when it's done, you can just hit return to painting mode. And then we can continue. So make sure we save this. And let me put it in the right folder here. All right, and we'll just call this outfit.spp. All right, so now we're saved. And we can find something to throw on there. Now you can, of course, go online, find tiling textures and all that. But for this, I'm going to keep it simple here. We got linen, we got nylon. No. We want to wear a nylon skirt. Let's go ahead and just drop that in the nylon folder. That's interesting, but we can increase the tiling, say 3. That's not bad. Okay. And what else? Here, you know, the zipper stuff. So what I'm going to do is actually mask these out. So I want some kind of metal for everything except these 2 strips down here. So what I'm going to do is just make a new fill layer inside a zipper. So that's a fill layer right there. And then I'm going to put a, let's say a white mask, which if I scroll all the way down here, is going to come to the grayscale here. So what I'm going to do is go to this tool right here, which is a polygon fill. And I'm going to go by UV chunk fill. So click on that. And I'm just going to remove these, right, your color should be at 0. So you just drag over these and they should remove that. So now if I come back here, let's just change this to something red just so we can see. You can see that it's not including those strips, right? So that's what we want. So now we can change this to whatever color. If we want sort of more chrome-like, we can set this back, maybe set a gray color, and then set metallic all the way up so that they look like metal. As you can see, the zipper, it looks like metal. And you know, if you want to be a little bit darker, we can take our, where's base color? Here's base color. We can drop this down even further so we have more sort of dark gray metal. Right, and all those pieces there. Okay, let's see what else. We don't need any height. Roughness, you want it real shiny, you can knock down the roughness and you get almost a mirror finish. Probably don't want it that shiny, but maybe like 0.3 somewhere in there. Okay. What else do we need here? We need those 2 bits. So I'll just name this layer zipper tall. There we go. And we might make another fill layer in here. In this one, we're going to add a black mask, and we're going to now, which basically makes it all transparent, and we're going to drag over these two to include those two. So now if we come here and just let's pick a red color again, you'll see it'll only affect those parts. So you can make this whatever color you want. It could be some light blue color to match with the jacket itself, or it can be some sort of darker color. It just depends on what you want. So we can do that. So darkish blue color. Okay, to go around there like that. All right. And you know, you can really detail this how you want. We're not going to go too much into texturing here. Just you can really, you're free to make it look the way you want. So for now, I mean, we could, let's see here. Let's put some kind of logo on one of the pockets. And I like to do that with the, where's the alpha? It's the right here. You know, I'm just going to pick one of the pre-made ones here. Something that looks interesting. Let's see. Just scroll down here until you find something you like. Right, I kind of like this guy with the gas mask on. So I'm gonna go in the jacket group here and add a new fill layer. Decide what I want that logo to look like. Maybe I just give it a color, or I can use, if I go back to materials, maybe I want it to have some kind of material to it. So let's see, sort of linen, herringbone. Yeah, let's try the jersey wool here. So I'm gonna, oh, what did I do? Let's undo that. Undo. I'm gonna drag that into jacket above the denim. So we'll go there. And actually did that. Oh, I see what happened. Okay. So I'm gonna, let's delete that one. And this should have been, I'm gonna do this again here. Let me see if I drag this on here. Now it's gonna do that. I'm actually gonna just drag it above that. So that's what I should have done here. So I'm going to delete the denim, and I'm going to go in and just drag it in here. When you drag it on the thing, it makes sort of a sub layer. There we go. So this is what I wanted to do. I'm going to turn off this one. And what did we do with the tiling here? Like 5, was it? Something like that. There we go. So my mistake there. So for this layer, now we just need to mask this layer out. I'm going to also turn up maybe to 5 the tiling on it. And I'm going to put a black mask on it. And then while that is active, I'm going to make sure I'm back in my painting mode. And then I go back to alphas and I go to find that again. Did I go by it? There he is. Okay, so you know, whatever logo you want. I'm actually going to come in here and find this pocket, just because it is straight up and down where here it's at an angle. I want to bring this here, hold control and right click to scale it up or down, make it as big as you want. And if I click, I need to make sure that this is set to 1. And then if I click, we're going to get that logo right there on the pocket. Okay. So things like that, if you want to have it big on the back, you could do that too. All right, just scale it up and click it there. I don't know if we want that or not. Let's leave that for right now. And you know what? Maybe let me set this to 0. I think I made it too big on the front here, so now I'm going to set it. And this time I'm going to scale it pretty small. Center it a little. Maybe I can put it up in one corner. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Whatever works, really. That might be a little small, but that's all right. So we'll just do it a little small like that. Okay. And if we don't like the yellow, we can always just come in here and pick some other color. You don't want it blue. You want it black. Whatever works for you. And then, of course, we can, let's see here. Let's turn on height. See if we can get to a height setting. Doesn't look like we can very easily. So what we can do is on this layer, I'm going to go here and we're going to add a levels and set this to height. And I'm going to come in close here and just see. I just want to pop it up a little bit now. I forget which one of these settings is the better one to do this with. It's kind of working a little bit. It's kind of, this is an optical illusion, so you can see it's kind of pulling it up. It's not really moving anything, so we'll go with that. We'll just call that good. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time here in Substance, but there we go. If we wanted the little band at the bottom of the jacket to be something else, some other color, we could go back here to materials and let's bring in, like, say we want that to have more of a herringbone pattern. Saw herringbone somewhere. Was it the fabric woven? No, it was this guy. So I'm going to drag this. And again, I need to make sure I'm in the jacket, so I'm just going to drag it in here. Oh, missed it. Let's put it in this folder. There we go. And I just want this to be on this guy here. So on the, where is it? Herringbone here, I'm going to put a black mask. Then I'm going to go back into this tool here with Poly Chunk and select, just click on that guy. There we go. Okay. Okay, and then we can come back in here and let's see our tiling. So let's see what 2 looks like, or 3, right? Just get it to where you like it. And then we actually don't want the color, but it's kind of, if I turn off the color, the height is not that strong. So let me see here. Channels, no. Okay, I'm just trying to do this kind of fast here. So yeah, there's no height setting to adjust here. So, we can maybe drop the opacity a little bit so it's not so strong. All right, so we can sort of blend it back a little bit. Then we can actually take this, say we want to do the inside of the collar, which is this piece right here. So in here, we can select the mask and then click on this piece, if that's the correct piece. Let's just see here, that guy. Okay, and then go back here. Did that not work? Let's go back in here. Yeah, it's on there. Oh, that's just that piece. Okay. Then we need to come in and get this piece and this piece. This gives us a nice little bit of trim here. And then on the collar, you can see there's a straight line here. So I'm actually going to use polygon fill, which is this. And I'm just going to drag like that. All right, and if I go back here, it's going to do the inside of that collar. So it'll give us a little sort of stylish thing going here. We can even do the cuffs just to match those. Where are the cuffs? They are right here. So we can again go back in the mask and go back to UV chunk fill and just select these. That one. Where's the other one? Oh, it's up here. And this one. Okay, let's go back in the shader. Okay, now I actually might think about boosting this back up. Really make it bold like that. Yeah. So I'm liking what that's doing there. Okay, it's just vary it up a little bit so it's not sort of homogeneous kind of a thing. A little interpenetration there, but no big deal. And if you want, you can do the whole collar. If you want to make it different, you can do the pockets. I think I'm good here. Now let's see what so I'm going to close the jacket one. Let's see what we can do with the skirt. So this fabric nylon, again, I got to actually drag it into this folder, not onto it. Oh, I did it again. So I'm going to actually just delete this fabric nylon, and I'm just going to drag it in here. And we may have to now drag it into the skirt. There we go. And then, I don't know what we did, 3. I don't want it to be too small that it becomes noisy, so let's try 2. It doesn't hurt. Maybe let's go back to 1. Just see. Having a big pattern on there is a nice detail. So let's go with that. Okay. And color-wise, you can change the color right here. Kind of like that color, but if you wanted something else, some kind of blue, and there's 2 different colors. There's for each part of it. But I kind of like that color. So let's go with that. And if we want this sort of trim piece here to be something different, we can put a white mask on this and then drag that to remove it from there. And let's see, what do we want to put on that guy? Lace fabric, I don't know. That was kind of cool. Sure, let's try this. Let's drag it in there. And we need to put a black mask on this. Set this to 1 and just have it appear only on that guy. And then we can actually increase the tiling. Whatever you want. Doesn't really increase the tiling. Maybe let's go 10. Okay, now obviously this color is not the nicest. So we can have a dark. So I'm gonna click on the sampler here and just sample a sort of darker red for that. And then for this color, I'm gonna sample one of the lighter values, maybe here. All right, so it's in the same sort of color range as the skirt itself. And we could also, if we go back to the fabric nylon and set this to 0, and let's remove the belt, which is this one. So we're going to separate that, but then on this layer, we're going to actually add it so that it has that same pattern as the trim at the bottom. Okay, so, again, this is not really a substance texturing video. It's more just a workflow between Marvelous Painter and Maya. So let's say we're happy with this. Say we're going to go with that. She's got a cool little logo on the back here. Some nice trim options there and so on. So I'm going to save my file. So Control S. And let's save. Yeah, we go. Okay, so we're saved now. Now we need to export this. So what we're going to do is File, Export Textures. And, obviously I need to plug in where this is. So let me Let me go find that folder. So I've selected a folder, and the output template, since I'm using Arnold, is going to be Arnold AI Standard, which then I can go to Output Templates. Arnold AI Standard, I don't need emissive, so I'm closing that. I don't need height. I need normal, roughness, metalness, and base color. Now, what I'm also going to do, because if I go to list of exports, you can see it uses that Lambert shading group name as the sort of prefix to everything. So what I can do is in here, instead of mesh texture set, I can just put, I don't know, outfit. And I'm just going to copy that and just do it to all of them. So outfit metalness, outfit roughness, and outfit normal, right? You can name that whatever you want. So that now you see it's going to name them this way. So let's go back to settings here, and typically I'll use TIFF, 8 bits. Size base will do 4K. And just looking at the list of exports, you'll see that everything is 4K in TIFF format at 8 bits, named like that. And just hit export. Okay, so now it's exported. I'm going to save these settings. Come into Maya here. And I'm just going to just right click in here and then go to new material, and we go to Arnold and shader and AI standard surface. And we'll just call this outfit shader. So with the outfit shader assigned, we have all the maps in a folder over here. So what I'm going to do is open up my Hypershade. And we have a tab here. So what I'm going to do is, all I need is the first one. So 1001 of each one. So metalness and normal. I'm just holding control and clicking on, and then roughness. So I have 4 selected here. Base color 1001, metalness 1001, normal 1001, and roughness 1001. It doesn't have to be the 1001. It can be any of them. Just as long as you got one in each category, it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to drag them into the Hypershade just like that. Okay, so now if I tab and put an AI standard surface, actually no, I don't need to do that because I have outfit shader somewhere. Or do I not? I know I have it somewhere. Oh, there it is. Outfit shade. Just middle mouse drag it down here. If you graph it, it's going to get rid of these. So just middle mouse drag it down there. So roughness. I'm going to grab this and I'm going to go out alpha to specular roughness. Then we're going to look at the click on the roughness map here. Click on ignore, color space file rules, go SGB, go to utility, go to raw, and open color balance and set it alpha is luminance. Okay, that's very important for metalness map, for roughness maps and metalness maps. So let's do the metalness next. Put it above roughness. Just click on it. Again, ignore color space file rules, utility raw, and alpha is luminance. Then go out alpha to metalness. Base color, drag it above that. And this goes out color to base color. That one should be set already. sRGB. I will turn on ignore color space file rules. And then normal, this one goes down here. I'm going to hit tab and go to AI normal map. Then connect out color to input and out value to normal camera. Then in the normal map itself, same thing. Ignore color space file rules, utility raw. You can turn on alpha's luminance or not. I've not seen it make any difference. So either way is probably fine. So that's the outfit shader. Now, one thing we need to do for all these nodes is right here, UV tiling mode is set them to UDIM. Let's do the roughness, UDIM. Let's do the metalness, UDIM. And you'll see it'll tell you how many tiles it found. And do the base color, UDIM. Okay, so now you should have, now it might only show up as gray here. If we want, we can select the base color and go to generate preview. And there we go. It shows us our base color as we have it. So all we got to do now is do a render. And to do that, I'm going to select my sky dome and I'm going to go find and go to file. And I'm going to click here and go find an HDR map. I gotta go find one here. So give me 1 sec. Okay, so I've just got this one right here. I'm going to save my file just to avoid head off any crashes. Okay, so we go to Arnold, open render view, and we can hit the render button. And it's going to have to run the make TX on the shaders the first time you do it. So I'll just give it a second. Okay, now it's actually starting to render. So obviously it's a little heavy on the sunlight. Take this and just knock down the intensity. Right, or I can use a different map. Right, if we come in real close, you can see the detail. Now you might notice in Maya 2025, the renders kind of come in fuzzy and not grainy anymore, and that's because if we go in the render settings here in Arnold Render, there's an imager that's already applied, which is the default Arnold denoiser. If I turn that off and then run the render, you'll see now it looks grainy like it used to look, and then it'll clear itself up. This is just the default Arnold denoiser. If I'm going to use a denoiser, typically I like optics better anyway, so I'm going to I'll use that one, but you still get that sort of blurry fuzzy look until it clears up. So you have to let it do that. Okay, you can take this HDR map, click rotate Y, and this middle mouse drag to rotate the sun around to get different looks at it, a different lighting. Okay, so there we go. The outfit is now rendered. And we can see her hair seems a little on the shiny side, so I'm going to select that, go into the attribute editor, find the shader for it, and just increase my roughness so it's not so crazy shiny. Okay, so there we go. She is now ready for rendering with her outfit. So I'm going to stop this, and because she's cached out, you can see that we get animation. That looks pretty good. Okay, so next step, I'm going to bring her into an environment and set that up for rendering. All right, so to get this ready to be put into an environment, I'm going to actually get rid of the sky dome because I don't need that. And I'm going to go into the Hypershade, and I'm going to go to Edit, and I'm going to delete unused nodes. It's just going to get rid of everything that's not actually being used right now. And then that should be good. So I can now close this and save it. And then I'm going to make a new empty scene. And I'm going to go to File, Create Reference. I'm going to reference in that file, which is this one. So I'm going to reference this in. So in case I need to make any changes or whatever, I can always just update the reference. And let's zoom out. And if we hit 6, and of course we got to start our timeline here at 30. And we have to end it at, I think it was 5:01. 30 here. Okay, and again, to see the clothing, I can go in here, then go to the original outfit shader and color and generate preview. There we go. Then I can go File, Create Reference. And this time I need to find the environment. Give me 1 sec. There it is. So I'm going to load that in as a reference and give it a second here to load up. Some errors. I can deal with that. And this is the environment here. So the way I built this is that, the animation that comes out of Substance Painter is going to fit this little stage here perfectly, as you can see. Let's put the default shader on everything so you can see better. There we go. So you can see she walks out there, and it's just long enough for her, and then she comes back and walks back behind the curtains. Okay, so it's designed to look like that. So I'm just gonna, put her in a pose somewhere, and I'm gonna just have a look and see what the renders are looking like. So we need to save this. I'm gonna just Control S. I'm gonna save this. So let's go up here to Arnold and open Arnold render view, and then run a render. Might take a second. That's not too bad. Okay, and again, it starts out blurry and sort of clears up. Okay, so now I can start tweaking the lighting. Let's let it get done here and see where we're at. So renders are taking a little bit longer. Now everything in the environment is procedural, so there's no external shaders or anything like that. The only external shaders are on her, and there's no HDR map. So it seems like she is a little bit bright there. So what I can do, so actually what I'm going to do is make a new camera. So create cameras and camera. Go to panel, look through selected. And let's turn on the resolution gate here so we can actually frame her up a little bit. And then switch this to camera shape 1. So that's what we're looking like. So now if I go back here to perspective, I can move this around without updating the render. So let's see, she's got probably this light right here hitting her in the back. So I'm going to reduce the exposure to say 19. And you can see that's coming down, maybe 18. Remember, but if you go down by a whole number in exposure, you're actually cutting the amount of light in half. Okay, so she's backlit by some of this other stuff here. So that looks pretty good. Let's go back into our camera so we can rotate. In fact, we don't need to do that. We can just do it here in the render window. So I'm going to go back here to perspective. Just need to make sure that 3D manipulation is turned on. Then I can just rotate here in the actual render view and just see how we're liking this. Let's go 17 on that light and see. Not even sure. Not really adding all that much light. I think it was just sort of an extra bit of light. This one right here, it's a little blue light. You can see it right on her. This one is a little warmer. You can see that on her. I might actually, let's warm this up a little. Let's go this way. Maybe not too much. Using color temperature. So really that's pretty much the process there. Now, obviously, from this angle, she's kind of being blown out by the colors coming off there. And that's just, there's some lights facing back at her here. So let's look at this. This is blue and so I'm going to, that's that blue light. I'm going to lower this. Let's go 18. Actually, what was that? 24? Oh, that's the yellow light. Sorry, the red light I was looking at there, but it's actually using the color temperature. So let's go 20. And let's look at this one. This one is actually using the color here. So let's go 20 on that one. And there's another one down here. Let's go 20. We just want to reduce. We want some lights coming there, but we don't want it to be extreme. So let's go 19. Let's check this blue one here and go 19. Maybe even 18. 17. Maybe 18. Okay, so we can just tweak these and get them. Let's go 21 and 19 or 20. Right, it's just gonna depend on personal taste and all that. And it can be tweaked per camera angle. So obviously I'd have to set up a bunch of cameras here and animate those cameras to cover the whole animation, right? So from the point she comes out of the stage, you know, we have to have cameras on her. And all the way through her leaving the stage. And we have to make sure we're not at this angle where we see the clothes sort of go away. I'm not sure. I guess let's see here. Okay, I guess the animation really only lasts till like 400-ish, somewhere 399. So really, I can just make this 399. So we'll just have her at an angle where she could just walk and be gone from behind the curtain there. We can have it sort of rotate around like this. So really, that's about it. Just, you know, we'd have to set up my camera angles, and then animate the camera angles, and then just render out all the cameras and composite all those together. Okay, I'm going to set up a camera shot here just to show you how I do it real fast. So I'm going to go create cameras, camera, and panels, look through selected. And you can name that camera, you know, shot 1 or whatever. I'm going to turn on resolution gate. And let's see. So at the beginning of the animation, she sort of walks out. So maybe I just want to catch that first part. So maybe I'll start right here. So I'll set a keyframe, just hit S on the camera, and then I want to have her walk out. And actually, you know what? Let's come in a little bit closer. Hit S. She comes out and starts walking. We'll have the camera, so about, say, 80 frames or so. We'll have the camera sort of shift and move back here. Hit S again. So now we have this camera move right here. Pretty simple camera move. One thing that I like to do is I go to Work, Windows, Animation Editors, Graph Editor, and Maya will automatically. So if we take, you know, one of these translates, you'll see that it flattens the tangents, which gives you easing out and easing in, which is good most of the time. But in this case, I don't want it to ease out. I want it to be at a constant speed. So I'm just going to select everything and put a linear tangent on it, so that now when I play this back, the camera's already moving. It's not, you know, starting at still and then speeding up a little bit. It's already moving. And when the shot ends, it's still moving. So it's only 80 frames. So I don't want it slowing down when it gets into 80. So that's what I do. So essentially, that's what I like to keep my camera angles simple. Now, I'm not going to have the camera flying all over the place. I'm going to have very subtle camera moves, and I already have cameras made. So I'm actually going to delete this one. And I'll show you, I have these shots here, and you see I name them shot 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then I put the frame ranges for those in the name. So if we go here, shot 1, this is my shot 1, 0 to 80. Okay, and then we go to shot 2, and that one runs from 70 to about 120. So this is that range right here. So we have a side shot for about 120. Then we have shot 3, which runs from about 115. And you notice that I do overlap the frame ranges a little bit. This is going to give me a little flexibility when I edit it together. And this is the shot. It goes 115 to 260. So we come here, and the camera is just sort of staying on her as she does her twirl. What I say, the 260s, that's a pretty long shot here. All right, 260 is about where she started to turn around. Then I go shot 4, which is running from about 250, and pretty much, I don't think I've put the end frame on this. This sort of follows her out. And pretty much then I can just have as many frames as I need it to fade out. So this one doesn't really have an end. You know, I'll figure it out. Maybe around, you know, 480 or something like that. So I can just put a 480 on that one. So that way it's just a quick way for me to be able to tell the frame ranges for each camera shot. Okay, next we're going to go into render settings. So under the common tab here, we're going to go here and we're going to say images, and this is my shot 1, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in shot. Just put a slash shot 1 in there. Okay, and then hit accept. And then over here, I'm going to put shot 01, right, which will then be put on the name of the file. Image format EXR. Compression, I want none. I'm going to tell it to merge AOVs. Use output transform. Name underscore number dot extension. And this one was 0 to 80. Right, so I'm just taking it from there. And that was in shot 1, 0 to 80, and HD 1080. Okay, so that's all for this tab. On a renderer tab, well, let's go to system. I have it on GPU to see if I can get faster render. So I just switch it from CPU to GPU, and I have this at about a 4 camera AA, which gives me pretty good renders with really no noise. Then, you know, But that's, you know, if I'm using the GPU, then that's pretty much all I'm going to set here. Then in AOVs, right, let's get this out here. So I'm going to use a Z Depth pass. So I'm just going to select that and slide it over. And we'll get into what I do with that in After Effects. So it's gonna embed a Z Depth pass in the AOVs, which is why I turned on Merge AOVs, because it's going to embed that in the EXR file. So really, that's all the settings that we need there. Just make sure we have our Z Depth, GPU, camera A. You know, set it to a number that works. 3 is the default. 4 gives you a little bit better quality. I'm just trying to reduce the amount of noise in the image. Okay, so if we, you know, somewhere in here, let's have a test render. And let me run that. And we just got to wait for it to finish because it does have a an imager on there. So I'm just going to let that run and finish. And what are we at? 16. So that only took 16 seconds at 1080. Now I got to make sure that the let's see here on the Arnold renderer. If I go to imagers, I need to make sure I'm gonna turn these imagers both off. I added my own. I'm gonna turn them both off. Actually, I don't know why there's 2 of them. So we can just make sure everything is turned off, right? And you'll see with the stripes. That's how you know it's turned off. So it's gonna run again, and I want to see just how. You can see how there's actually quite a bit more noise without the imager. And be aware that imager does not get baked into your renders. It's just for your render view. Okay, so we're gonna have to turn it up. Otherwise, it's just gonna be a very noisy render. Okay, so I'm gonna stop it here. Let's go. Let's go here in the render settings, and let me just jump straight to 6 and see what we get. So let's run it again. It should ideally still be faster than the CPU, so you're going to have to do some tests to see if it's even worth it. If you're getting better times and cleaner renders with the CPU, then use that. But if you're getting faster renders and they're good enough, then you can use the GPU. So I'm at about 23 seconds. Still noise, it's not as bad. Let's go up again. I'm going to turn this up to 7. Yeah, we got to be careful with the camera AA. It is kind of a brute force method of you know, setting up your render. So let's see what we get. And this time, okay, this time it took about 31 seconds, and we're gonna maybe go up one more. Let's go 8. And let that run. Okay, that one took 40 seconds. Let's go up some more. Let's just jump to 10 and see what we get. And that one took a little over a minute. 1 minute, 1 second. And you know, there's still some grain, but I think I'm gonna go with that just to avoid crazy long renders. What I do notice is, looking at the hand here, is the subsurface scattering is a little bit strong on the body shader. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the Hypershade, and we're going to just go through each of those shaders. Now it's referenced. So let's see, body shader, and we'll go subsurface. We'll go like 0.3 and maybe 0.75 in scale. The eye shader will go 0.15, 0.75 as well. This is the face. We'll do the same thing, 0.3, 0.75. Where's the other ones here? Leg shader, 0.3, 0.75. And did I get the arm shader? There we go, 0.3, 0.75. Oh, you know what? Here I seem to have forgot the radius, so just gonna click on that and then go to the leg shader and put that on there. Okay, I think that's all of them. Save it. And the other thing I want to do is go to ray depth and put like 3 in specular, 3 in diffuse. And I think that should be good just to give more light bounces. Save the file and run a render, and we'll see how long this one takes. Okay, so about 109 to render that one. Still really heavy. So again, I'm just gonna go ahead and tweak these until I find something I like, and then I will be back. Okay, so with a little bit of tweaking, that's reduced. What I also realized, some of it is coming from that light back there and that color, so it's making it seem worse than it is. So I'm okay with this. I got a final render time by 108, and that should work for me. Now, we may have to tweak certain things on a shot-by-shot basis, but for now, this will work. Okay, now what I'm going to do is just, again, set all those, camera A was set to 10. Wanted to squeeze more of that grain out of it, I could do that, but I think I'm okay with that. And so now I'm just going to render out these shots until I get everything rendered out. Then I'll go into After Effects and do some compositing. So renders are done. So I got 4 shots rendered. Here's the first one right here. It's only 90 frames. But we're going to go bring this in After Effects and go through the compositing process, especially with the Z Depth that we added. So I'm going to open up After Effects, and then we'll get into that. Okay, so here we are in After Effects. We could do a new composition from footage, or we could do File and Import and File, or we can do right-click, Import, File, and then we just need to navigate to that folder, wrong one, this one, and let's click the first one, and this should be on. If it's not on, just turn it on. You can go import, and it's just going to import this. If I double click it and hit spacebar, it's going to load it up into the memory. So the first time through, it's not going to be real time. It's going to be slower. But once it's loaded, once this is all green, it will then play it real time. Now you can see we got some noise, and we got some weird flickering on the floor. Not really sure what that's about because there's no animation on this triangle thing. So, little artifact. I don't know if it's an artifact of GPU rendering, but we're going to just let that go for now. Okay, so that came in. Now, what I noticed is that this is at the wrong frame rate, because this is actually at 30 frames per second, just because we came out of Marvelous Design at 30 frames per second. So we have to set this to 30 frames per second. So if we go to Edit, and we go to Preferences, and we go to Import, and just give this a second. Now, typically, the default is actually 30. It's just that most of the time I do 24, so I will usually change this to 24 just to not deal with it. But for this case, I'm actually going to put it back to 30. If yours is still a fresh copy of After Effects, you may not have changed this before. So if it is 30, leave it there for now. But doing that did not alter this. So we actually have to right click on this, go to Interpret Footage, go to Main, and then we need to set this to 30. Okay. Then the other thing we got to do while we're in here is go to Color. And actually, you know what? Let me hit OK first. So there we go. We're at 30 frames per second as we want. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click right here where it says 32 BPC, which is 32 bits per channel. Click on there. If yours says Adobe Color Managed, we want to switch this to OCIO Color Managed. Okay. And you get this little message here. Just say OK. And the reason we're going to do that is because in Maya, the color spaces that we use, the ACES color space, if we click on the orange guy in the corner and go to color management, And you'll see that we're using the OCIO setup here. And then we rendered in ACEScg. Okay, so it's important to know that we did that ACEScg. So we're going to go here, and we just want to make sure this is set to OCIO color managed, and then say okay. Now we can right click on this, go to interpret footage, go to main, then go to color. Right, if you didn't set that OCIO color managed, then you probably won't be able to adjust this. So you got to make sure you do that first. Then we could go to rendering ACEScg, and that's going to put it in the same color space that we rendered it out as. So that's going to now make it look correct. So it has to be 30 frames per second, ACEScg. So now that we've done that, we've set it correctly. We need to drag this onto this icon here, which is the composition icon, which is going to put this in a new composition. Okay, so now if we hit space again, it's got to load it up, and then it'll play it real time once it's loaded fully, and you can see this is what we have. So she comes in, and then the shot ends. Right, it just, so this covers the beginning of the walk-in. Okay, so now that we've done that, things are looking good. Now we need to extract the Z depth pass that we put in there. So I'm going to click on this just to select this layer, Control D to duplicate it, hit the Enter key, and not the one on the number pad, but the one on the main part of the keyboard. Just hit Enter, and I'm just going to rename this to Z. Select the bottom one, and I'm just going to call this one Beauty, assuming I'm spelling that right. Okay, so the Z one is on top. Now what I'm going to do is typically I have an effects and presets here. So this is where all the effects are. The other way to get them is you go to Effect. And the one we want, let's make sure we're clicked on that. The one we want is 3D Channel Extractor. You can also, instead of going in the menus, you can just start to type in Extractor until you see it, and then you can just drag it onto this layer. Okay, so you can do it like that, or just go to Effect, 3D Channel, and just click on Extractor, and it'll do the same thing. Then we go to Layers, and the one we want is Z. So we're going to hit Z, and it's going to make the screen white. And the reason that we just need to adjust the black and white points here. So I'm going to click on and drag on black point to the right, and I'm going to keep going until I start to see something somewhere in here. Okay, now it's important to note that for, if you're doing this yourself, just because mine is 800 doesn't mean that at 800 on yours you'll see the same thing. These numbers are going to vary from shot to shot. The range might be big, it might be small, and you might start to get to this point at like 20 sometimes. So I'm not sure what causes the difference, but it's going to be different for every shot. So what you want is to get as much contrast between the furthest thing away from the camera, which is that back wall, and the nearest thing to the camera, which would be the sort of curtains and stuff in here. So if I just move forward a little bit, you can see that as the camera moves forward, this starts to come lighter and lighter and lighter. So if I go white point, I'm trying to get the brighter areas to be a little bit brighter. Right, so I want as much contrast, I want as much sort of latitude or range between the closest stuff and the furthest stuff in terms of the grayscale values. Okay, that's going to give us a lot more range to be able to adjust the focus and things like that. So something like this is probably good. Okay, again, these numbers may or may not work for you, right? So, you just sort of tweak it until you get it to where you need it to be. Okay, so there's my Z, and there's my Beauty. Now, what I'm going to do, and this is what you kind of have to do this. I'm going to pre-compose this layer, which means I'm going to take this layer, I'm going to nest it in its own composition, and then use that composition as the layer here. So shortcut is Control-Shift-C, or you can go to Layer, and you can go to Pre-Compose right here. So I'm going to call this Z-Comp. And I'm going to tell it to move all the attributes, so all these effects are getting moved into that composition, and then hit OK. Okay, so you can see the composition icon right there. And then I'm going to click on beauty. And again, we can either go through here, we can go to effects, blur and sharpen. And the one we want is camera lens blur. Or if you want to do it the other way, you could just start to type in camera. And when you see camera lens blur, just drag it onto the layer that you want it on. Okay. Now we have to turn off the Z comp because right now that's all we can see. So we have to actually just hit the little eyeball to turn it off. So you can see the camera lens blur sort of blurs the whole frame. Now, obviously, we don't want to just blur the entire frame like that. We want maybe the stuff in the back to be more blurred or, whatever it is. So the default is that it puts a 5 blur radius on there. If I drag this down to 0, then we're back to just everything is in focus. And if I drag it all the way up, you can see we can go pretty extreme with it. And you'll notice that these geometric shapes called the bokeh, we can, if we set the roundness to like 100%, basically turns them into circles. Okay. And typically when you're dealing with really dark lighting, the circle is because the aperture is wide open versus if it was sort of closed down a little bit. So typically in sort of low light situations, that roundness would be up pretty high. Then down here, blur map layer, we're going to use that Z comp layer as the blur map, meaning that we can tell it where to focus. So if I go in here and put Z comp in here, now I'm going to turn this way back down here. Obviously, I don't need it to be that high. Let's start at something like 4. And blur focal distance, right? It goes from 0 to 1. 0 is black, so black is the furthest stuff. And if I go all the way to 1, it's going to, whatever is nearest is going to be more in focus. Now I'm going to turn off this use linear working space. For some reason, it causes these artifacts here. Not sure why that is, but I'm just going to turn this off. So if you're not getting these issues like I'm getting here, I don't know if it's clashing of the color spaces, but if you're not getting those issues, then you don't need to do this. But I'm going to do it just to clear this up. And then, I can sort of move back and forth on the blur focal distance, right? If you want her to be in focus, you can do that. Now, what I actually want to do is have her sort of come into focus when she's closest to the camera. So if I start to drag this, you can see she clears up right around 0.7 for me, meaning that I want her to sort of, when she walks in, I want her out of focus. And then she gets, somewhere around here. In fact, let's knock this back just a hair. So about 0.61 right in there. So I want her to, be out of focus, and then we sort of focus in by the time she gets closer. Right, so maybe starting around here. So what I'm going to do is if I hit the stopwatch here, it's going to set a keyframe. And then if I hit U, it's going to actually show me the keyframe, which is right here. And then I'm going to go to the end of the shot, and I'm going to just make sure she stays in focus. So I'm going to bring this up to around 0.7 or so that she stays in focus. And it's going to drop another keyframe for me, right? So we're basically just sort of following her with the focus. And then over here, right, we can actually start out really high blur radius, something like this. And we can actually set a keyframe right there. Okay, and again, if we hit U, it's going to then bring up the blur radius keyframe. Then as we go forward, and at some point she's going to step out, we need to bring this back to, what was it, 4 or so, and it's going to drop a keyframe there. So we're going to start out of focus and sort of clean it up as we go. By the time she comes out, we're sort of less blurry, and then eventually she's going to walk and be clear. So if I hit spacebar just to cache this out and see what it looks like, right? It's really fast. You're probably not going to notice it, but it's kind of cinematic in how we're doing that. Okay, I can take this keyframe, move it up a little bit just to hold that unfocused longer and then start to clear it up. So I hit space again, and we're going to load that up. Okay, and I might combine that with a fade in from black later. So I like how that's looking. Okay, so we can go with that. All right, so now if I go back here to project, these are all the things that are associated with this shot one here. So if I just select all three of them and drag them onto this folder, it's going to put it all in the folder. So I'm going to call this shot one. Okay, and then I can right click here, go to import and go to file. And let's go back one, go to shot two. Select the first one. It should be open EXR sequence. It's going to import that, right? And again, I'm just checking to make sure it came in at 30 frames per second. It's in the wrong ACES color space. So I'm going to right click on it, go to interpret footage, go to main, go to color, go to rendering ACEScg. Now there's a couple different ACEScgs, and from what I've seen, they all do the same thing. It all looks the same. So, any of those will probably work. Okay, so now that is in the correct color space. Drag it onto the composition, which brings it in here. Now let's just going to hit space, and we can play this one back and see what this looks like. So this is a side view. Right, so pretty basic. Okay, so again, select this layer, Control D, hit the enter, set this to Z, enter again, and set this one to beauty. Go to the Z, and we can just go over here and type in EXtractoR, or enough to show it there, then drag it onto the Z. Click over here, go to Z, grab the white point. And you can see as we go forward, it's sort of just... Now we don't need to have this go all the way to there. We just need to bring it back so that about where that curtain ends is sort of the furthest thing, and everything after that will just be the same level of blur. And then we can raise the white point just to try to punch up the white values in here. So something like that. And when she walks in, she'll be sort of mid-ground like that. Okay, so now we can hide the Z depth, go to the beauty, go to effect, blur and sharpen, and camera lens blur, or you can just type it in there and drag it. So again, we're at a blur radius of 5 just as default. We're going to go to layer and use Z as the... Actually, what I forgot to do here is we need to pre-compose this. So Control, Shift, and C, and we'll call this Z Comp. We should just call it Z Comp Shot 2, just so that we can tell them apart. So there we go. So now in here, I'm going to go Z Comp Shot 2. And then I'm going to adjust the blur focal distance until she's in focus. So you just kind of go back and forth until she gets crispy. Let's go down to, I don't know, 3 on the blur radius. Right? If you go too high, you can see that her edges sort of start to expand out and doesn't really look very good. So, you don't want to use a lot of blur radius. Let's go 2.5. Okay, we just want her to be in focus. Let's go down about somewhere in there, And I'm going to turn off this use linear working space right there. And again, keep adjusting the blur focal distance. So if I go all the way to 1, these curtains, because they're closer, are going to be in focus. And obviously 0 is way back there. So I imagine that she is somewhere around the 0.5 or so ish range. So there's 5.3. Just going to hit spacebar. And that's probably good. Okay, so let's say we're good with that. And of course, anytime this can be adjusted. Now, for this one, I don't need the animation. I don't need to animate anything because she is staying sort of the same distance away from camera the whole time, right? Because she's walking sideways. She's not walking to us or away from us. So her her sort of focus point is generally the same. So no need to animate anything. I think we're good as it is. So we'll call this one good, right? So now we got these two shots here. We got this first one. And then we got the second one. Okay. So let's go back to project here. We're going to take all this stuff, drag it onto a folder, and call that shot 2. Okay, click off of that. Go to File, Import, File, and we're going to go do the third shot. So let's see right here and select one, import. And it's going to bring things in 30 frames per second, wrong ACES workspace. Right click, interpret footage, main, color, and rendering ACEScg. There we go. Drag this onto the new composition button. Okay, so we have another angle. Just hit spacebar if you want to play it back. So we have this angle here, and again, there's that weird flickering down on that. I'm not sure what is causing that, but we're going to ignore that. Okay, she starts to do her twirl here. Okay, so now it's going to play in real time. Okay, so there's our shot. Again, Control D to duplicate, hit enter, set this to Z, click this one, enter UD, go to the Z, go to effect, or you can go EXtractoR, just drag it onto Z. Click here, select Z, drag this to the right until we start to see something. Okay, again, that back wall is probably the darkest value we want here. And then we'll raise the white value just to bring the closest values up a little bit here. Something like that. And I like that there's some differentiation on her in values. This arm that's more forward than the rest of her body, you can see a difference. So we're going to go with that. Again, Control-Shift-C to pre-compose it. So this is Z-Comp of shot 3. Okay. Then we can just hide that. Go to Beauty. And we can go right in here. We can just type in camera and grab the camera lens blur onto the Beauty. And set that Z-Comp shot 3 as the layer blur map. Turn this off, and we want to figure out where we want her to be in focus. Do we want her to be in focus the whole time, meaning that we have to animate the value? So we can go back to the beginning, drag this to the right until she is in crisp focus somewhere in here. Okay, I might take this down to 4, the blur radius. So we're gonna click on blur focal distance, click on the stopwatch, and then hit U to show the keyframes, as you can see right there. Then we're going to go to here, right? She's moved forward, so she's not going to be in focus anymore. As you can see, she's a little blurry. So we can adjust it till she is in focus, which is going to automatically put another keyframe. And we'll just go up a little bit more, then do the same thing. Just adjust it until she is in focus. Somewhere in here. What was it? Over here, it's about 0.44. So this should actually be higher than that. There we go, somewhere in there. Then we're going to go up a little bit more. And here she's not as much change, but we just need to make sure that she is indeed in focus. Then here now she's kind of stopped moving, so she's not going to be changing that much, but the camera is moving as well, so we have to just try to keep her in crisp focus here. Let's see. Maybe somewhere there. And she pretty much holds that same level of focus. We can I don't know, a little bit there. And then we go to the end, and she's a little bit out of focus. She sort of stepped back, so she's falling backwards. So we just need to adjust this back a little bit. Something like that. So, we've just sort of animated to keep her in focus the whole time. So I'm going to hit space, let it cache the first time through. Now you'll notice that it sort of stops here. And it's going to load up what it can into the memory. Actually, it should be able to load. So you can see that it stops. And all that means is that it's run out of RAM, right? What's happening there is that it's loading all those frames into the RAM. And if there's not enough RAM, it'll just load up what it can and then play that part. Now, part of it might be because, these shots are also loaded into RAM here. So what we can do is just go to Edit, and we can go Purge. Purge, let's see. Let's try all memory. No, that wasn't it. Well, maybe it was. Hold on, it's doing something. And I really should have saved before I did that, but hopefully we won't get a crash. Okay, so it did something. Okay, now we can see if we can get the whole shot here. Let's see if it'll let us. There we go. So now it can load the whole shot. Okay, so now we can preview the whole shot. So just keep that in mind that After Effects is using RAM and it's loading frames into the RAM. And if you got multiple shots like we do here, and you're loading them all, it's going to get to a point where it runs out of room. So you can just purge the memory. So let's say we like that. I think that's pretty good. We got some nice blurring back there, out of focus, which puts which sort of puts the eye on her instead of the background. Okay, so we'll call that shot good. Then we go back to project here. We're going to select all three of these, drag them onto a folder, and call this one shot 3. Okay, so I have a total of 4 shots. I'm going to do one more. So File, Import, File. And we're going to go to this one right here. Select one of those, import. And I'm going to drag it out because it got put in the shot 3 folder. So I'm just going to make sure it's not in there. Same thing. So right click, interpret footage, main, color, rendering, ACEScg. Hit OK. Drag it down into the composition. And so if we want to see it, we can just hit space. So this is kind of a close-up here. Okay, so close-up, she turns around and then walks off to the right. Okay, again, some sort of artifacting and noise here, but it's all right. Okay, so here we are now. Again, select that, Control D to duplicate it, enter, name that one Z, enter, name this one Beauty, go to Z, type in EXtractoR, drag it onto Z, grab the Z depth out of there, drag the black point to the right until we, that wall should be the darkest thing, so I might stop there. Going to drag the white point up a little bit just to boost her. You can see she's the brightest thing in the scene, so that's actually really good because making sure we can focus on her is going to be easy. Right. So once we've done that, I'm just going to hide this. Actually, no. Let's pre-compose it first. So Control Shift C. We'll call it ZComp Shot 4. Okay, go to now we can hide it. So go to Beauty, and we're gonna go to Camera. Oops. Grab Camera Lens Blur, drag it to the Beauty. again, we need to specify this Z comp shot 4. And right now it's at 0, which is black, so the furthest thing away is in focus. I'm going to turn this off here. So we need to bring this closer to white. So I'm just going to bring it up here until she's in focus. Let's see, white might be too much. Let's go 0.95. That's a little soft, so it might just go all the way to 1. So there we go, or let's try 0.99. Right, so you're going to have to see what works. Let's try 1. Okay, so now with this shot here, she's kind of in the same spot, but then as she walks away, you can see she goes out of focus, which is actually good. We want her to leave the frame. So having her at full focus here at 1 seems good. And then she walks away. So it actually kind of works. What I might want to do is, maybe somewhere around here, I'm going to adjust the blur radius. So I'm set a keyframe and then hit U to see the keyframe, and then go all the way to somewhere around here and have her really just go out of focus quite a bit. Right, so go to the beginning, hit space. We're going to let that run. And then she starts to walk away from the camera. So we're going to let her just blur away and then start to really blur her out. Okay, so that's just a good way to end. Just like we started that way at the beginning, we can end that way. So I might even go higher. Let's go kind of crazy here. And I'll probably combine this with a fade out or something like that once I get it into Premiere. Okay, so if we go from here, we sort of just get out of focus. Now this camera lens blur is not the greatest, but it does come with After Effects, so you don't have to pay anything extra for it. So there we go. Now what I want to do is just to show you a different sort of Z Depth blurring plugin. So I'm gonna, if I hit this FX here, it's gonna turn off this one so you can see all that stuff is gone. And I just want to make sure I'm on the beauty layer. I'm gonna go to effect. Now this is one that I paid for that doesn't come with After Effects, but it's called Frisch Luft Depth of Field. So if I click on this, and then for depth layers is the same as the blur map. I'm gonna use the Z comp shot 4, and by default, the radius is 0, where in the other one it's 5. So let's go like 4, right? And you can see if I turn this one up, it does a much cleaner job. But let's go 5. And then the blur focal point, again, that's just which, where do you want to blur? And this one is nice. Instead of using this, we can actually just click on this, and so if you want to focus on the back wall, if I click on there, it's going to put that in focus. And if I click here and I want to focus on her, click on that, now she's in focus. So you see we get a much nicer result here. And then as she walks away, if we wanted to really blur her out, you can see that it does a better job of it. Okay, so but that's just another plugin. There's lots of plugins that you can use for this, for After Effects. And this one is better than the camera lens blur. So just thought I'd show you that, but I'm going to stick with the camera lens blur here. So this shot then is good to go. Okay, so now I can go back to project here, and I can take these and drag them into a folder and call that shot 4. Okay, so we got our 4 shots set up and ready to go. So, say we're happy with them and so on. So now we have to actually output them. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go back to shot 1, and I'm going to go to composition and add to render queue. Going to go here and under best settings, just going to make sure best and full is on, and then it's using the correct frame rate, which is 30 in this case. High quality. Click on there. And I'm just going to output this at H.264. And I'm going to open up format options in here. And I'm going to do VBR, which is variable bitrate. And I'm going to set this to about 15. Okay. Give us decent quality and whatnot, and the file size should be pretty small. And I'm going to go OK. And then there's no audio, so we can... No, and then the other thing we got to do here is just come in here to color. And we're going to output this at sRGB. Okay, just to set it to the correct final output, and just hit OK. Then we can go here where it says output 2 and not yet specified, and then just give it a folder to save to. Okay, then we can go to shot 2 and do the same thing. So composition, add to render queue, click on best settings. We just want to make sure it's best full, 30 frames per second. Yes. Then we're going to go here and we're going to do the same thing. So again, H.264, it should remember those settings, so we don't need to set them again. Color, output sRGB. Then go over here and in this folder, yep, that's where we want it. Go to shot 3. Composition, add to render queue. Now shortcut is Control M. Then we're going to again click on best settings. Everything looks good. Hit OK. Click on high quality. H.264. Color. Output sRGB. And hit OK. And then here, just make sure it's going to the same folder, right? And then shot 4. Composition. Add to render queue. Let me enlarge this. Best setting, yes. High quality. H.264. And I'll put sRGB. And goes there. Now, that didn't actually save them. It just queued them up. Okay. So save your file, and then you have to hit render, and then it's going to go through and start to do them one by one. Okay, so I'll be back when that's done. All right, so now we're in the home stretch here. All we have to do is bring in the files. Now, I'm just going to go to new project here, and we're just going to give it a name here. So I'm just going to call it Fashion Show. I guess that's really what it is. Okay, and then we just have to go choose a location, and I'll put a location in here quick. And then just hit create. Gonna go ahead and make a new project. Okay, so here we have the interface here. And I'm just gonna select these 4 files, which are my 4 shots. Oops. And just drag them in here. Okay. And really all I gotta do is just select them in order and just drag them over here to create a new sequence, and it should sequence them in order, which, as you can see, it's done. And I'm just going to hit play and see what we got. Okay, now when it plays back, the quality is going to be a little bit lower because it has to knock the quality down just to be able to play it. So if it's a little fuzzy, that's pretty normal. Okay, so that's what we have. Let's look at it again. We come in blurred. Then we come here. Now, now just looking at sort of the cut between here and here, right? It looks a little weird because here she's visible, then here we have to wait for her to come out from behind the curtain. So what I can do is I'm just going to zoom in here. And if I just double click this, it's going to pop up here. And I'm just going to see where I want her to be when the shot starts. So maybe like somewhere here. And I'm just going to put my in point here just to tell the clip to start here. So if I hit I, it's going to start the clip here. You'll see that now it's shortened this, and now there's a gap. So if I right click in the gap and go to ripple delete, it'll get rid of that. Now let's see how that feels. Okay, so a little bit better. Now if we see here when we cut away, Actually kind of works, right? Because she's got this, her left foot is forward, and when we cut here, her left foot is forward. Unless I'm reading that. Yeah, that's her left foot. So this is actually a pretty good cut, right? She's sort of mid-step. Now when we cut, her knee's already bent here, so we could move this a few frames forward, maybe to here, and then hit I again, which is again going to move the endpoint. So if we ripple delete that now, I think that should be a cleaner transition, right? It's very quick. Here to here, right? I might even take this clip, double click it, and just see that we go back a couple frames. So I might go back a couple frames. Now here I want to change the out point, so where the clip ends. So I hit O instead, and I'm gonna ripple delete that, and right. So we have a pretty nice transition. Now let's look at the next. Here we're sort of, the legs are sort of really wide, right? Again, a left foot is forward. So when we come here, we kind of want to be in the same pose. So I'm gonna just maybe somewhere here. So I for endpoint, close that gap. Right, so these are very sort of subtle. You can see here, we're leaving here, that back foot is coming up. And here we might actually go forward and just bring it up maybe 2 frames and do an endpoint. So I there, and now it'll be a much better transition. Okay, I intentionally rendered them with a little bit of overlap just to have that. Okay, then we cut to here, and then we come here, and then we have to then match the turnaround. So when we end this shot, she's almost all the way around, but here we're still sort of further back in the turnaround. So we could, let's double click this clip here and come back to, let's see here, we want a sort of match, as you can see, the beginning of the next shot and the end of this one. So if we come here and hit O for out point and ripple delete that, so that so I think we're still a little too much. Let's go back a few frames, hit O for out point, and right click, ripple delete that. Okay. So that's going to flow a little bit better. Okay, so we just tighten up the edits a little bit there. And then we sort of blur as we go to the end there. So then, like I was saying before, here maybe I want to start with a fade in. Now, this tab is usually part of this here. So I like to separate it. So I just go to effects and just drag it out into like here. That's not right. Hold on. Let's go back here. Go to effects. Let's drag it here. There we go. So I'm just going to shrink this down. Then I can go back to my, which one was it here? Scroll back. Here we go. Project Fashion Show. And then I have my video transitions here. So what I can do is go into video transition. I'm just going to do a dissolve dip to black. I'm going to put a dip to black on the front of this. So it'll start at black and then come up. So if we play that back, you'll see it starts black and then comes up. If we want it to last long, we can just drag the endpoint of the dip to black there. And there we go. Oh, and I forgot to kill that gap there. So, and then what I want to do here is just put another one on the end. So I'm going to dip to black there. So let's watch it from the beginning. Right, then we go like that. And then we go to black. We might want to start that black a little earlier, so I'm just going to drag this way. Okay, maybe it's a little early. Okay, so you can just tailor it to the way that you like it. Okay, so it's all pretty simple. Actually, I might not, oops. I might just bring this way down. Let her be on screen a little longer. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so Pretty simple, straight cuts. We're not doing anything fancy. We're keeping it pretty simple. And there we go. Now, if we had music or sound effects, we could start to think about that stuff. But for this, we're just going to keep it just to the visuals here. Okay, so it's just important to get your clips to flow well together. And then we fade out. Okay, so let's say we're good with that. We've edited. Now we want to export it. So I'm going to go to File and make sure that this, you can see the little blue border, that this window here is active just by clicking in it. And I'm just going to go to Export Media. And typically when I do this stuff, I'm generally just outputting it to YouTube. So I want to output it in the YouTube quality. So I don't need just the basic media file. I can turn that off and then turn on YouTube. And then what you can do is you can sign into YouTube. I'm already signed in, so it's already on there. And if there's a playlist, you can put on a playlist. I'm going to say none here, and we'll call this one Fashion Show. And then if you have a description you want to put in there, you can do that. Privacy settings, you can have it be a public video, an unlisted video, private. Typically you want, if you want it to be visible to anybody who goes to your YouTube account, you just set it to public. If you want it to require a link to be able to be viewed, you do unlisted. If you want it to be completely private, you can do that. But if you're going to have anyone else see it and you want to send them the link, that's the unlisted option. So I'm going to go with that. Now, as far as the presets here, because it's set to YouTube, it's already put that YouTube settings on there based on the size and everything in the format is H.264, right? That's what the YouTube preset has already done for you. It's set all the sound output settings if you have sound, things like that. So really there's not much to change here. You can name the actual file name. So I'm gonna call this one Fashion Show. Okay, I might put YouTube on it just to show that it's a YouTube file, right? And if you had other things you wanted to output it to, Facebook, Vimeo, etc., X, you could check those on and set their settings as well. So if you look at the video, again, it's already been set for us based on YouTube settings, so it gives you the best settings for YouTube, and the same with the audio. Typically it's AAC. So really you don't have to touch any of that stuff unless you know what you're doing, you want to tweak it, but really you don't need to do that. And then we have custom thumbnail here. So if you have an image that you made for a thumbnail, you can from image file, right? And then you can go choose a file. I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to use a frame from the source video. So I can just scrub along, just click up here, and maybe I'll use her like this frame right here, for example. Maybe I'll use that as my frame. So I'm going to click use current frame, and it's going to tag that frame so that it'll be the thumbnail for the video when you get into YouTube. And then we can just, again, I'm going to click on this, and it's going to bring up a window, and I'm just going to tell it where to save this. So I'm going to save it somewhere, and it's going to update. And then when I've all that set, rather than export, which is going to lock up Premiere until it's done, and notice the file size, right? H.264s, you get really small file sizes. These are not the most high quality, but they're quick, and if you want to put stuff online, it's easy. It's only 34 megs here. I'm going to send this to Media Encoder. So I'm going to click on that. It's going to open Media Encoder. I can save this now. Just go to Save, and then go back to Media Encoder. And wait for that to open. There it is. And then it'll load it up right here. And pretty much everything's done. All I need to do is just hit this play button. And it's going to start to first it's going to output the video. Then it's going to upload it to YouTube for me. Okay, now you can see now it's doing the YouTube part, right? It's created the video. Now it's uploading to YouTube. And at 34 megs, that's going to be a pretty fast upload. And hopefully if everything went well, we'll get a green check mark right there. So now that video is uploaded to YouTube, set as unlisted and ready to go. Okay, so you can now go into your YouTube channel and see the video there. You can change it to public, or you can leave it as unlisted, copy the link and send it to people if that's what you want to do. Okay, so that is the process. Went from Marvelous Designer to Maya, to Substance Painter, back to Maya, then to After Effects, and then to Premiere, and then output it for YouTube. Okay, so that is how we do that. And that'll be it for this video. We'll see you guys in the next one.